North Kazakhstan Museum of History and Local Lore is not only old photographs and a stuffed hare. What each of the exposition panoramas is dedicated to? How many holes do you need to go through to make a journey from the Paleolithic to our time? All this in the new episode of Welcome to Kazakhstan Project. Probably every provincial town has its own local history museum, but in many ways they are similar. Today we will try to prove to you that North Kazakhstan Museum of History and Local Lore is a special place that will not leave indifferent any guest. This is Welcome to Kazakhstan Project. My name is Zakirjan Mamlutov. Let's broaden our horizons. The museum appeared back in 1924. Then museum collection has repeatedly changed the place of storage, until in 1968 the state provided the house of a merchant Arkel for these purposes. Since then, the museum has grown and accumulated archives. In 1985, the Fine Arts section was opened. And already in the 21st century, a large-scale reconstruction of the museum has been made. The museum building once belonged to a wealthy merchant, and it is quite possible that it was precisely this decoration that pleased his guests more than 100 years ago. A piano with chandeliers, wooden carved furniture, a striking clock, memories of former luxury.
Вообще, это, конечно, здание очень удивительное по своему архитектурному строительству. Вот это, обратите внимание, но это легенда. Какие толстые стены.
In general, this building is very amazing in its own way of architectural construction. Pay attention, but this is a legend about how thick the walls between the halls and the outer walls are. According to the legend, they say that the walls are hollow. The building is unique in that it was heated from lower part, and the heat went between the walls, and thus was distributed throughout the building. It was the end of the 19th century. The construction was carried out from local red brick, burnt red brick. Brick workshops were located here in our city. There was a well-known stonemason, Malakhov. This means that the buildings were not plastered. During construction, you see, if you look at the building of our museum, it is generally unique in its brickwork. There are elements of modern style here, both eclecticism and empire style, and this combination of several architectural styles at that time was called the Siberian Baroque style.
Нескольких архитектурных стилей в то время назвали стилем сибирское барокко.
A tour of the museum begins from the halls dedicated to the flora and fauna of northern Kazakhstan since ancient times. A significant part of the exhibition is devoted to archaeological finds. The pearl of the collection is the mammoth tusks found near Petropavl in 1923. The find is over 10,000 years old. In addition to the tusks, there are also a molar tooth of an ancient elephant relative. Also on display there are remains of a woolly rhinoceros and an ancient long-horned bison. The following halls represent the life of the ancient inhabitants of northern Kazakhstan. Each period of human development from the Paleolithic through the Neolithic and Bronze Age to the Iron Age is presented in extreme detail. All exhibits are genuine. Especially interesting are the finds from the Botai excavations, the place where the horse was tamed for the first time in the history of mankind. And this is not just a skull, but a unique evidence of the development of ancient medicine. There are holes in it, and with the help of them the brain was stimulated. Scientists believe that the skull could belong to a shaman. It was found at the excavations of the Botai culture. The Iron Age, which replaced the Bronze Age, was the time for the new types of weapons development. Wars for territory, power and resources began. It is not surprising to see a dagger or a bow with arrows in the hall dedicated to the Iron Age. However, household items of that time are also presented here.
В ноябре 2006 года нашу экспозицию музея.
In November 2006, our museum expositions were visited by Nursultan Nazarbayev, who highly appreciated them and called our museum one of the best museums of the Republic. Of course, exposition updating is constantly underway. In 2016, the museum organized the exposition of the Kazakh Khanate formation and Kazakh ethnography, as well as the whole of the North Kazakhstan region in the years of independence. Also, the activity of the Peoples of Kazakhstan Assembly is reflected.
В которой также отражена деятельность Ассамблеи народа Казахстана.
The halls which are depicting Kazakh culture are predictably the richest in exhibits. There are carpets, woven and felt and embroidery, as well as ornamented leather and wood products, a rich set of jewelry. A significant part of the collection is made up of weapons and ammunition of Kazakh warriors. We are in the hall dedicated to formation of the Kazakh Khanate and Kazakh ethnography. One of the unique exhibits presented in this room is a traditional women's costume. It dates back to the beginning of the 20th century. This is a camisole, a dress with embroidery, and a kimishek headdress. A woman wore this costume after the birth of her first son. These are kubus shoes with silver rivets. Only the privileged people could afford them. And there was no difference in the shoe pads, that is, it was not subdivided into the left and right legs. The valances are presented in this exposition. They are stitched with gold and silver threads. The lower part of a bed was covered with valances so that the bed legs were not visible.
Из самых уникальных экспонатов.
One of the most unique exhibits in this room is the 19th century chair of Idris Koja, donated to the museum in the 50s of the last century. It is authentic, made of velvet and the horns of aurochs, the animal that became extinct in the 17th century. All the following halls are dedicated to the history of Petropavl, from the construction of the fortress of St. Peter in 1752 to the present day. Particular attention is paid to the merchants' heyday in the 19th century, the revolution of 1917, the participation of the North Kazakhstan natives in the Great Patriotic War. Once in Petropavl, finding the North Kazakhstan Regional Museum of History and Local Lore will be quite simple. It is located on Constitution Street of Kazakhstan. The length of this picturesque pedestrian street is almost 3 kilometers. You will find the museum at the 48 Constitution of Kazakhstan Street. But take the chance and walk along the entire avenue. The charm of the merchant houses of the turn of the 19th and 20th century is worth it.
Североказахстанский краеведческий музей.
The North Kazakhstan Museum of Local Lore is not just a standard location for guests of the city. Here you can really make a fascinating journey from ancient times to the present day and will see how the modern culture of Kazakhstan was originated and how it developed.